Alright, in this particular lesson we're going to be looking at arc length and the perimeter of sectors. Now when we talk about arc length, what we are ultimately talking about is the length of this particular part here, just the arc, not the perimeter. And the perimeter is different because the perimeter of this shape would include both of these arms here next to the angle, which we know are both from the center of the circle out are the radius. Alright, so let's get started on how to determine the arc length of each one of the following shapes. Now the first thing we need to remember is that the total angular size of a circle is 360 degrees. And we have to remember that we have a circumference of a circle is equal to either 2 pi r, or it is equal to pi times d. Alright, now we have that information, we have everything we need to solve this question. So if we look at our first one, we know, imagine that this is an entire circle. To determine the entire circle's circumference, what we would do is we would take the radius, which is 10, and we would multiply it by 2 pi. So in this particular moment, our arc length would be equal to, if it was a whole circle, would be equal to let's do something else. Let's say arc length, just arc length. Arc is going to be equal to 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by our radius, which is 10. Now that would be for the entire circle, but because we only have a certain portion of the circle or fraction of the circle, what we need to do is multiply this again by the fraction of the circle. Again, this will be 80 degrees over our total, which is 360 degrees. So now that we've done that, this will give us that arc length in total. So our arc is going to be equal to 80 divided by 360 times 2 times pi times 10. So the whole thing here is just your formula for the circumference of a circle, and then we multiply it by the fraction that this particular angle represents of that circle. Alright, so let's put that in our calculator. Alright, now that's all in, we just hit execute, and here's what we get. So it's going to give us a simplified version of what this would look like as a fraction, and then it's going to give us our decimal value at the other side. So the arc length is 13.96 centimeters, and when we think about that in reference to our radius of 10 centimeters, does that seem plausible? Yes, it does. So we're going to write in 13.96. Alright, let's do B. So again, we're determining our arc length, and that's going to be equal to the fraction of the angle divided by the total angle of a circle. So first put in 105 degrees divided by the total angle sum of a circle, and then we're going to just do the multiplying by the formula for the circumference of a circle. Multiplied by 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by our radius, which in this case is 8 millimeters. So our arc in this particular case is going to be equal to Alright, so the fraction simplifies down to 14 pi over 3, and our actual result is going to be 14.66. Okay, let's quickly look at C. C, we have 70 degrees, so our arc is going to be 70 degrees divided by 360 degrees multiplied by 2 times pi times our radius, which is 5. Alright, our result is 6.11. 6.11 meters, and remember we're rounding this up to 2 decimal places purely because I don't want to round up every single one of the digits. Okay, here's 3 for you guys to practice, so pause the video, give them a go, and then I will solve them. Alright, let's get started. So for our first one, we have to remember that our arc is going to be equal to whatever the angle is, so in this case it's 200 degrees, divided by our total, 360 degrees, multiplied by 2 times pi times our radius, which in this case is 2.6 meters. Alright. Now we have everything we need to solve, so we just put it into our calculator. And the result is 9.075. Because the third digit is a 5, we've round up, so it'll be 9.08. And does that seem reasonable? It does, because we have a radius that's 2.6 meters and almost all the way, not almost all the way, but almost 2/3 of the way around the entire circle is used. So let's get on to E. E, we have an angle of 300 degrees divided by 360 degrees multiplied by 2 multiplied by pi and then multiplied by our radius, which is 20 centimeters. So our arc is going to be equal to okay, so it actually simplifies down to 100 pi over 3, and that is equal to 104.719, so 104.72. And that is in centimeters. Alright, and let's lastly look at F. For F, we have an angle of 340 degrees divided by 360 degrees multiplied by 2 multiplied by pi and multiplied by a radius of 2. So our arc is going to be equal to the end result is 11.868, so to round to 2 decimal places would be 11.87. And that is in kilometers. Alright, that's it for this video. Hopefully it's helpful, and I will see you in the next one.